here in Turlock. I remember traveling in a city and I was walking and I saw an intersection. I was like, wow, that could really solve some of my problems as a bicyclist in Turlock. And so tonight I'm recommending for council to direct staff to prepare a report outlining what an alternative transportation policy advisory committee would involve. I've discussed it with some members of the city staff already, and there's most certainly a need for this type of committee. My vision is to have a formal group that advises and makes recommendations on matters pertaining to alternative transportation, which includes bicycling, walking, transit, as well as ADA needs. So those are my thoughts. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you so much. Any questions or comments from Ms. Hazelton? No, I don't think there are any questions or comments, but I just wanted to let you know that I'm thoroughly impressed with all of your work. We've been able to have a lot of constructive dialogue together about this, and your heart and your passion for alternative modes of transportation other than a vehicle is great. I've even told you that I've seen you riding about, and so I honk politely so I don't scare you and wave, but I think it's great. I would hope that this council does want to direct staff to create this advisory committee. I think that it's important for the city of Turlock. We're a leader in the Central Valley in a lot of ways, and I think we can lead when it comes to alternative transportation as well. So I'm looking to my left and looking to my right to see if we have unanimous consent to direct staff. All right, I think we do.
Thank you.
All right,
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Josie. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on. Policy goals and implementation plan, executive staff, Director Cook.
Good evening, Mayor Soyseth, members of the City Council. In May of this year, the State Water Resources Control Board adopted an emergency water conservation regulation that replaces the previous regulation. The new one that will be in effect from June of this year through January of next year requires locally developed conservation standards based upon each agency's specific water supply circumstances. In effect, it replaces the prior percentage reduction-based requirement the state developed to what they're calling a stress test approach, which means basically you look at what your supply and demands are over the next 3 years, assuming 3 or more years of drought, and develop your own standard based on that. So our original standard from the state when it was a state mandate was 32%. They revised that down to 29%. We inputted our data or information to the state's database, and it kicked back a minimum conservation standard of 16%, 16%. However, that didn't take into account that we have a declining aquifer still. We've lost 4 wells. We're having water quality problems still. And so we feel that a 20% standard is more realistic. The state sets a minimum, but you can go above that. And we feel that a 20% minimum standard is more realistic given Turlock circumstances. And to put that in perspective, last month, June, was fairly hot. Our reduction last month was 13%, 13%. So you can see even at 2 days a week, we will have a hard time meeting that 20% standard. So Turlock's already in stage 2 of its conservation plan, which means we're at 2 days a week watering. That was enacted by the council this time last year. We feel there's no need to change that. We'd like to stay at 2 days a week for the duration, and no need to relax our watering limitations right now. We continue to up our enforcement efforts and our education efforts. And I sensed last month the stuff we saw in the media, the state's new regulation was creating some confusion for people that the drought was over and we could relax the standards. And if you have surface water supply, that may be the case. But for us, with a groundwater only system, that is not the case. So I'm hoping that this presentation tonight, as well as some education enforcement, will get our customers back on track and conserving water. And you will be getting a report in August on the state of our groundwater system and some improvements we'd like to make over the next year or two to upgrade that. 2 weeks ago, we started rehabilitation on a well site that the City Council gave approval for. And again, we still focus on the Stans Regional Water Authority drinking water plant, so we can develop that portfolio of resources and supplies that will help us through the long term. So that's my update on where we are on the water situation right now. Do you have any questions?
Any questions or comments for Director Cook? No, thank you. Very straightforward.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It was mentioned in the weekly briefing to Council, but I wanted to bring it up in this venue, that the RFP for the marketing, branding, tourism, and economic development services will be coming back to Council for your consideration and authorization to issue at the August 9th meeting.
All right. Thank you so much. Any questions or comments for Mayor? All right. For those in the audience, this is the time that all staff has to be accountable for their policy goals. That's where they're just coming one after the other. Go for it, Allison.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In our effort to meet our policy goals and implementation plan in regards to tourism, as well as our continued partnership with the university, I wanted to report to you on the progress that we've made on one project that we were working on in conjunction with President Shealy's office and staff. There was a dialogue months ago about the concept of establishing monument signs in town that not only identified where people were in terms of this is the city of Turlock, but also highlighting one of our gems, which we know is the university. And so through that discussion, we recognized that the timetable that we had originally set was probably going to be a little bit more than we could, accomplish in that short amount of time. But one of the opportunities that we recognized is that we had a signboard out at Pedretti Park that was no longer being utilized, and so we recognized that that was an opportunity for us to do something in a relatively short amount of time. And so in working with our partners at the university, they provided their design skills, we gave input, and I think that you'll be proud of what we came up with, and I'd like to present that tonight.
Please do.
Maybe I could get a Vanna White. So this is the rendering that essentially President Shealy signed off on. It's going to be placed, as I said, behind Field 5. We have an existing signboard there that has some uplighting that we will utilize to not only highlight the community, but also recognize the fact that we are home to Stanislaus State. And as I mentioned, thank you, Steve. This is just one step in that direction of looking for opportunities to highlight our partnership with the university, and we will continue to have this discussion about monument signs and how they relate to wayfinding signs throughout the city, so that when people are coming to the community and visiting, they know that this is home to Stanislaus State. Any questions?
Any questions or comments for Allison? No.
Thank you.
Very appreciative. I talked to President John, who came in on July 1st, and she's already excited for this sign. And I know that President Shealy, even though he's now up in Sacramento, that he'd be really excited about it. And it's honoring our commitment to the university. So thank you so much. Awesome. Any other staff members on this item? Okay, moving on. Capital projects and building activity, Director Pitcock.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. Your building department in the month of June processed 109 permits, of which all but 12 were done through a minor review process over the counter for a total of 89% done in expedited fashion. And we had about 408 individual inspections made during that time frame. So do you have any questions on the building activity?
Any questions? Nope.
Okay, and on capital projects, the Taylor, the Taylor and Tegner cul-de-sac project, the work is generally complete. They are working on the landscape's in a maintenance period, and they're working on a few punch list items. The skate park, actually, we finished the punch list items last week. So from an engineering standpoint, that project has been completed. But park crews are finishing up a few odds and ends over the next few days or towards the end of the month, and they are going to open it as soon as they can possibly get it open. Montana Park, all underground concrete and stormwater storage work has been complete. They're currently working on the landscape, and grant funds were expended prior to the June 30th deadline, and the remainder of the work will be paid out of park funds. Burnell Sidewalk, the work is complete, and we expended those grant funds as well. Sports complex fence replacement, that project has been completed. The Countryside Storm Drain Repair Project, they are actively in construction. You might see construction going on in Monte Vista Crossings. They're on Countryside Drive. They're about 20% complete right now. What they're doing is they're correcting leaks where the pipes connect into the manholes. We were having issues with stormwater getting into the trench, outside the pipe into the trench, which can cause it to collapse the backfill structure. So we're trying to correct that so we don't have any trench failures. We have a water line replacement of water line replacement project in Palm and Mitchell. That project, we're having a pre-construction meeting tomorrow, and we hope to be in construction late July and early August. And our annual slurry seal project, we had a pre-construction meeting already, and they are scheduled to begin work in early August. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have on capital projects.
Any questions, comments? Yes, Councilman DeHart.
Thanks, Mayor. Mike, just a quick question. Does our punch list on Tegner Taylor include removal of the old bridge?
No, it does not. The old bridge is going to remain to be an access point for pedestrians and or bicycles to access out into the country. It's much like we did on Colorado and Coral as well.
The only reason I asked the question is because I was coming east on Taylor the other day, and we actually I had a car in front of me slowing to make a turn on that bridge. And so I don't know if we're going to have some sort of signage or if what we're going to do there.
I will have staff go out and take a look if there's something we can do to make it more present, that it's not an access point.
You'd think after so many months, it would not happen. However,
We'll double check that for you.
thank you.
Any other questions or comments? No, thank you so much. All right, the Joint Apprenticeship Committee Special Events Emergency Action Plan. Brian White and Karen Packwood, come on up.
Yeah, we're going to be ready for that. Okay, perfect. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. I am here on behalf of Brian White, Chief of the Training Division for the Fire Department. He unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, so I'm kind of a spokesperson. But I am here because we had a wonderful opportunity to participate in a local government special event planning and preparedness training today. We have this opportunity, I'm glad so many of the fire department personnel are here tonight, because our Turlock Fire Department is a part of the California Firefighters Joint Apprenticeship Committee. So I would like to introduce Terrell Bordeaux, who is the Education and Training Director with the California Firefighters Joint Apprenticeship Committee.
Good evening. As Karen said, I am the Education Training Director for the CalJAC. We are a joint management labor training organization for the fire service in California. And we have about 159 participating departments. We started in 1982, and Turlock Fire Department has been part of our program since 1987. So we've been partnered with them for quite a number of years. We are an apprenticeship program. Like I said, it's joint management labor. We're sponsored by the State Fire Marshal's Office on the management side and California Professional Firefighters on the labor side. We also develop our own training products, and this project here was under a grant from Cal OES, and it's called Local Government Special Event Planning and Preparedness, and your city planning committee was chosen as our pilot test organization, and they had a wonderful class today. We have a video we'd like to show that this was a hybrid class. They did an online module first, and it opened with this video that kind of set the stage for why this training is important. It's done by our video production studio, Firestar Studios, and then Karen wants to come back and give you her impression of the course today.
A small town USA doesn't really think that a terrorism event can happen, but we know in looking around the world today that it can, unfortunately.
Anytime you put 25 to 30,000 people in a very concentrated area and you have bad people in the world, something could possibly happen.
Situations occur at the least expected points in time that are highly critical in nature.
Post 9/11, things have changed, so you need to plan and prepare yourself for any event.
When we talk about safety and security, it's from the parking lots to potential bad actors who would come into the event.
With the Paris attacks, lone wolves, active shooters, to bombings, suicide bombers.
We've had suspicious packages that we've had to investigate and mitigate. We've had moving shooter.
For the Amgen Tour of California, we'll have a large number of people concentrated in one spot, along with professional athletes from all over the world. It's absolutely critical that we consider what the possible terrorist acts could be.
We've witnessed a number of events that have received national attention. the riots that took place during an event that's called Deltopia. Multiple agencies were called in from other jurisdictions. We had firefighters trapped inside residents with patients.
As we see in the headlines, wind events, crowds trying to escape from a hazard.
When you show up on an incident that has just gone crazy, you see a lot of mass chaos, and it's our job when we arrive is to be able to try to coordinate something and get control of that chaos.
Eventually time will catch up with you. You will have an event that goes wrong, and others will start to criticize your lack of action.
We'll have more loss of life, more injuries. It'll take more resources to finally get our arms around what the problem is.
Communities build reputation over time, and they can be lost with a single event at a special event that goes bad.
And accidents do happen. I mean, no matter how prepared you are, your event could go away and your community could suffer and someone could get hurt.
Special event planning is very important. It reinforces the concept of a whole community.
Planned events are probably the best opportunity to do things right because you have time.
First and foremost in any event is public safety. We have the community's trust in our hand, and we hope to keep that.
I've been in the fire service a long time, some 40 years, and I know what we used to look at in the early part of my career, and then I know now what the expectation is. And that expectation is broad with respect to what the public expects, what our electeds and appointed officials expect. So the course is designed to use existing resources and to have a much higher sense of collaboration.
Collaboration is imperative. We couldn't produce an event that provided the guest experience and the safety for families without a wide variety of agencies meeting far in advance.
So whether it's law or fire, or you get into public works or public health, those are key elements in the success of both the planning side and the operational side.
So we call it a planning team for these special events. A team is a group of individuals that understands their own role as part of the team, but also understands the role of the other players on the team as well.
By putting everybody at the table who add in their components of what they're doing, we find our gaps. We determine where we're missing a really crucial or important element in that response.
In my experience, the importance of the communication and having the team together and working together as a team, that has ensured a successful event nearly every single time.
What I've seen here with our group, and there's a lot of people involved, is a really wonderful combination of experience and a constant education that just makes them better every year.
Continually updating people, getting them together, keeping them advised of changes, and then also training whoever their backup or their replacement is, so that if something does go wrong with that person, they're not the only one holding that piece of knowledge.
It's really, really important to look back historically and see what worked well, and I think that's part of how we've built some of our really strong successes.
Anyone planning for any event should reach out to regional partners in their own community, reach out to the state of California. The old saying is, don't reinvent the wheel, just make the wheel a little better. No reason to start from scratch if you have somebody that can kind of educate you and get you better moving forward.
We plan and we practice and we discuss and we observe, and you just don't know what's going to happen. And you just have to be ready and do everything within your power, everything you have time for, to get ready to take good care of the public that you're responsible for when they're on your property.
So hopefully that gives you an idea as to the reason of our class today. It is kind of negative, but as you all know, the Christmas parade is a pretty big event here in Turlock. And last year we had an estimated 30,000 people coming to our downtown to partake in our Christmas parade. And when Brian went to a conference, he was given the opportunity to bring this wonderful group to us to kind of look at our Christmas parade and, you know, get the necessary players at the table. So we had an opportunity today to talk briefly about the Christmas parade, make sure that we're kind of looking at all necessary areas, planning for the worst. The other thing is we had not only city department representatives, but we also had representatives from the Chamber of Commerce, Emmanuel Medical Center, Turlock Irrigation District, quite a few from CSU Stanislaus were in attendance, Covenant Village, who was also the host of our training today, Stanislaus County Office of Emergency Services, American Medical Response, and PG&E were all in attendance today. Unfortunately, well, as well as all of the reps from the city departments. We had one representative from the Turlock Police Department. He is going to be taking that information back to the other players at the police department because of the fair that's in town. A lot of them weren't able to be in attendance today. But it really opened our eyes to make sure that we're looking at the bigger picture. So in the event of an incident that we have all of our ducks in a row and we are prepared. Does anyone have any questions?
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments for Karen?
Or Terrell?
Yes, either of them. No, thank you so much. Very informative. We appreciate it. Absolutely. All right, now we're moving on to fire department video presentation and equipment display. Chief Deloney.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. We have present this evening members of the Turlock Fire Department. We stand here together today to personally thank you for your commitment to our fire department. As the fire chief, I am the keeper of expectations. You have given us the opportunity to move our department forward and face head-on with greater confidence the uncertain challenges we meet every time the fire bell rings. In the fire service, skills are perishable. As a fire department, we believe in training is a challenge and not a chore. I'd like to ask Engineer Kevin Tidwell to come forward and address council. Firefighter Tidwell is our social media person, and he produced these two videos that we're going to see today for your review. Firefighter Tidwell.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Kevin Tidwell. I've been with the department for almost 10 years. And as a social media person, my job is not only to provide the public with up-to-date information and updates on incidents and what the fire department's doing, but also it's my goal to educate the public on what the fire department does and how we're a part of the community. And also, give council and city staff an opportunity to see a glimpse of what we do. And so the first video that you'll see tonight is a glimpse of 2015 and a little bit of what we accomplished and what we did. So it's just a short snippet of some of the calls that we go on. We respond to calls 365 days a year, 24/7. We're always available. So that's just a small glimpse of what we do. The second video I have for you tonight is just an update on our drill grounds. I'm a committee member of our drill grounds kind of renovation team. I'm a live fire instructor and work with our fire academy as an instructor as well. And there's a lot of things out there that we need updating, and this is a brief just update on what we're doing out there. So as you can see, our drill grounds, which is our training grounds where we train all of our firefighters, we train all of our crews on a daily basis. We've been without a live fire training prop for 2 years now, which is a vital part of our job to learn fire behavior and fire attack and tactics. And so with this new prop that we're in the process of building, it's in engineering currently, so we're awaiting the results of that and then we'll move forward. But as you can see, it'll provide a lot of different training opportunities for our personnel as well as hosting training for other agencies. So if you have no further questions, I'll turn it over to Chief Tuloni.
Any questions or comments for Engineer Tidwell? Well, yes, Councilman Nasmena.
I just want to congratulate you on the job you're doing with the department's social media presence. I think you guys have done a fantastic job, and I think it really helps educate the public in terms of what you guys are doing. So thank you for your work on that.
Thank you very much.
I think on that note, in addition for your social media, I think that's something for all departments. I think when we venture into the marketing, branding component and contract city manager, if you could work with the departments to make sure that we're balancing the privacy of different constituents with allowing the departments to get their message out and get their positive accomplishments out to the public, I think that would be great. I think there's a fine line to strike. So, also, you're not going to get away without a round of applause for your great work on the videos. I'm just excited that you let us test out these speakers with some audio other than just our voices, so thanks. All right, Chief.
Well done, Engineer Tidwell. Firefighter Stephen Kramer, he's our commander of Turlock Fire Department Honor Guard.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, and members of the City Council. Thank you for your commitment to the Turlock Fire Department. We requested funds to purchase Honor Guard uniforms. The uniforms that you see our Honor Guard members wearing here tonight are the result of that purchase. Since the inception of the Honor Guard nearly 3 years ago, we have participated in 28 events, 10 of which have been this year in 2016. We have a dedicated group of 9 members that have put a tremendous amount of effort and countless hours into training and performance. These uniforms offer a clean, comfortable, and professional look for all of our members. We will continue to represent the City of Turlock, the Turlock Fire Department, and its personnel with honor, respect, and professionalism. We appreciate your commitment to the Honor Guard and to the Turlock Fire Department. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Very good. Any questions or comments? I just have one comment, and that is that so for some folks maybe in the audience that look at these and say, is that necessary? Let's just be honest. Is this necessary to a fire department? And I will 100% tell you that it is necessary. To see you all represent the department and represent the city at some of our official functions, it makes us very proud as a council. But also they do some not so glamorous jobs, welcoming home individuals that are going to be laid to rest here from the armed forces in the middle of the night. They're standing guard to welcome them home, so that's why it's necessary, and that's why we will continue to support you as much as possible. So thank you so much for your hard work and your dedication. All right, that works. Thanks again, Kramer. Chief?
Firefighter Dale Meldon, nozzleman on engine 32, old and new nozzles and hose.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. If you don't mind, I was going to hand you guys a couple of your recent purchases before I begin talking.
I thought you were going to hook them up and show us how they work in here.
I wish that I was able to do that right now,
That'd be great.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
May I pass them out to you guys?
Please, yes.
Great.
Please don't break them.
Is there a guarantee on them still?
There it is. Not in the hands of a fireman, though. Okay, so what you guys have in front of you is the culmination of a very long project, approximately 5 years. I've worked for the city just shy of 10 years now, and been perfecting the craft of water delivery on the fire scene, which I think citizens, council, everybody could agree is the primary function of the fire service. Rescue civilians and extinguish fires. There's a lot of methods and modalities to that. We have been training, studying, looking nationally and also internationally at what would be the best tactics to employ here in the city of Turlock to the betterment of our citizens and also us as firefighters in the fire department. What you see in front of you, like I said, is about 5 years worth of work. We want to thank you for your commitment to firefighter safety, which ultimately is to civilian safety. If we can make it good for the citizen, it's inherently good for us. So we appreciate that. We continue to look forward to moving in that direction as all of the purchases are not complete, but we know with your guys' support and commitment, we will get there and continue our legacy of one of the premier fire departments in the state of California. So what you see is two different types of nozzles. You see a combination nozzle and then a smoothbore or solid stream nozzle. Not to get too far into the weeds of it, but in the very basics, it gives us options. Currently, prior to this purchase, we did not have options. We had one type of nozzle, which forced us into a box or into a corner at times. This allows us to get out of the box and to deliver what is most appropriate to the fire scene. Coupled with that, just like a bullet and a gun go together, a hose and a nozzle go together. As you can see, this is some of our older hose, and you try to take a look through it, and I think you'll realize that the waterway is very, very well occluded. We have had some major delamination and construction issues with our hose lines, and we're very close to a replacement. To a hose line, I think you can see a dramatic difference there in the water, the opening through the line. We'll be able to be more effective on the fire ground with these purchases, and just want to say, again, thank you very much for your commitment to civilian and firefighter safety. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Yes, Councilman DeHart.
Sir.
Are these quick disconnect? In other words, they're interchangeable while you're on the fly, or?
They are. So what we have right here, you'll see the part with the handle, which is referred to as the bail in the fire service. That is a standardized part across the end of all of our hose lines within the organization. Should we potentially come up short on a hose line in the real world, we can actually unscrew those tips, put more hose onto the end of it, and actually go deeper into whether it's an apartment complex, multi-story structure, whatever we may be faced with. Prior to this, we did not have any break-apart nozzles, if you will, which once again forced us into that box, which is not the best for us or for the citizen. So we definitely appreciate being able to upgrade to this system.
Great.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, in the 100-day review, all I heard was nozzles, nozzles, nozzles. So now we can put this to bed, right? Yeah, pretty good?
For now.
For now, oh, thanks. Of course, fire department.
Thank
All
you
right.
guys very much.
Thank you, Deb.
Thank you.
Chief.
Captain Kane Packwood, Engine 34, EMS AEDs.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of council. It's my pleasure to report to you today that after some multi-jurisdictional collaboration brought on by the Stanislaus County Fire Chiefs, your EMS liaison, myself, worked with many agencies and found a way to procure money through system enhancement funds. That resulted in 6 new AEDs, which basically saved you $12,000. System enhancement funds come about by way of fining your ambulance responder when they don't make their contracted response time. So here in the city of Turlock, they have a contracted response time of 7.5 minutes to be on scene. If they don't meet that, they start getting fined as a way to motivate them to make sure that they do meet those. Currently, there's about $65,000 a month that goes into that fund. So your fire chiefs in this county have tried to find ways to tap into that. This was our first purchase. It was our way to kind of get our feet wet in the process, see how long it's going to take us to move through that process, and then put together a collaborative approach. So all of the fire departments in the county were tapped. What did we need? This was our first purchase. As we move forward through the year, we're looking at multiple enhancements to our system, because that's truly what those funds are for. So the American Heart Association actually recommends that all fire departments have, for all of their frontline apparatus, an AED on them, and I'm happy to report that now you do. All of your frontline apparatus have AEDs on them. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions or comments for King? It's great. Good
All right,
news. Thank you so much.
Again, Mayor, City Council, thank you for your commitment, support, and patience tonight. We in the fire service believe a job in a fire department is not a job, it's not a career, but it's a way of life. Thank you for tonight. We appreciate all your support.
Thank you, guys. Round of applause for you guys. Good job. Thank you so much, Chief. Thanks so much, guys. All right, moving on to public participation. This is a time set aside for the public to address the council on any item that they'd wish. I have one blue card. You can fill them out. Ms. Bartlett, come on up. Library events.
Thank you. Good evening. So my name's Diane Bartlett. I'm the supervising librarian at the Turlock Branch Stanislaus County Library System. I usually like to talk about events once a month. Tonight I want to start out with a couple of thank yous. Thank you to Mayor Soyseth for coming and participating in our story time for families a few weeks ago. We had a program yesterday, also on a Monday. Yours was way better attended.
Good.
So
Good.
thank you. I'd also like to recognize the Turlock Fire Department for coming to do a program for us at the library. We had them scheduled at a certain time and nobody showed up and nobody showed up. Turns out they were out in the call, and when we called to ask about it, no sooner, about 5 minutes later, we had a different engine come through. So they didn't let us down. The kids were not disappointed. Everybody left happy. In fact, it was everyone really appreciated the services and being allowed to see the equipment, how it's used, to test out those. I don't know if they use the new nozzles, but they use something. Yeah, so they had all a great time.
And you don't have to be humble. They also eclipsed my numbers. They had over like 100
that's
people
true.
there, so
That's true.
Can't compete with the fire department.
This week, we'll give the police department a chance to come to the library and see where that goes. I know the chief is not able to make it. I'm not too sure who will be there, but we will welcome you. And we really thank you for being willing to come out and visit us and see the kids at the library. Okay, so in addition to that, this is a really busy week. We have a magician tomorrow. He's giving a performance at 3 and coming back at 4 o'clock. Then next week, on Tuesday the 19th at 4 o'clock, we'll be celebrating Harry Potter, a Harry Potter party. I know Dolores Umbridge will be there, and with potions. So hopefully we'll have a lot of folks show up to that. And then we are working, the library system is working on their strategic plan for the upcoming years. As part of that, we would like to hear from the public as to how you like our library to proceed, what you would like us to focus on, what's important to you. And so as part of that, the first part of that is a survey that you can access in each library, each of the 13 libraries, either in paper, it's available in English and in Spanish, or you can go on our website at www.stanislawlibrary.org and you can fill out the survey that way. And we really encourage everyone to participate. And then finally, just a reminder, we are now open on Fridays. Last Friday, we expected to be sort of slow, and they surprised me. Everybody came by, and we just had a great time. And I really appreciate everyone's support and everyone's use of the library. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bartlett. Perfect. I agree. We can give a round of applause. Perfect. Anyone else from the public like to address the council on any item? All right, I will close public participation. Moving on to declaration of conflicts of interest and disqualifications. Looking left and looking right, I see none. Moving on to consent calendar. What is the pleasure of the council? All right.
Second.
So we have a motion by Councilmember Jacob, second by Councilmember Nascimento. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Dehart?
Yes.
Councilmember Nascimento?
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soisek?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Moving on to final readings, we have none. Moving on to public hearings, we have none. And moving on to scheduled matters, a request to approve 25-year review of the 45-year franchise agreement between the City of Turlock and Turlock Scavenger Company for the provision of refuse, garden refuse, and recyclable material collection, alley tree trimming, and street sweeping pursuant to the terms and conditions of the franchise agreement. Director Cook.
Good evening, Mayor Soisek and council members. In October of 1991, the City of Turlock and Turlock Scavenger Company entered into a franchise agreement spanning 45 years. According to the terms of the agreement, the contract is to be reviewed at the end of the 15th, 25th, and 35th year for quality review purposes. On October 10th of 2006, the council did the 15-year review. In October of this year marks the end of the 25-year review period. Turlock Scavenger's franchise agreement gives them the exclusive right to hold residential and commercial garbage, garden refuse, and recyclables. Turlock Scavenger does not have the exclusive right to remove industrial refuse or construction and demolition waste. And just as a point of reference, the agreement was amended in 1994 to include street sweeping. In establishing these periodic reviews, the council is considering two main issues. One, the quality of the service provided by Scavenger, and two, the cost to provide those services. And since the last review of 2006, Turlock Scavenger has complied with all the conditions of the agreement and its various amendments. Staff's review is based on the agreement's terms, review of complaints received from customers, review of our refuse and recyclable materials production, street sweeping performance, and knowledge of the scavenger operation. And so again, based on this review, Turlock Scavenger is performing at a satisfactory level and in full accordance with the terms of the agreement. As always, the 3-can collection system we have continues to ensure compliance with solid waste reduction mandates. And Turlock Scavenger is a partner with us on many programs and events, particularly the Take Pride in Turlock event and Go Green Week. And these efforts go way beyond the terms of the agreement, so they're a good partner there. And just as a point of reference, Turlock Scavenger hopefully will be one of our first customers for recycled water. They're looking to use that in their street sweeper. So rather than using potable water in a street sweeper, looking to use recycled water. So again, part of their care of the environment. So, and then in terms of costs, the council did approve a rate increase in 2015. This is the first rate increase in 12 years. It raised our rate from $24.10 to $25.47, and which will increase a little to $28 over 4 years. But despite that rate increase, Turlock's rates are still lower than comparable cities such as Merced and Modesto by $2 or $3 a month. So again, you're getting good value for service. So again, staff's recommendation is to review approve the 25-year review consistent with your policy goals and implementation plan. I think Turlock Scavengers provide us with great service at a competitive price. And I look forward to seeing you all in 10 years when we review it again.
Any questions or comments for Director Cook? So you're sticking around for 10 years at least, is that what you said?
I'll try my best if you have me.
All right, sounds good. Any questions or comments from the council? All right, any questions or comments from the public on this item? Okay, I will close public comment, bring it back to the council for consideration.
I'll second.
And we have a second. All right, so we have a motion by Councilmember Jacob, seconded by Councilmember Nascimento. Clerk, please read back the motion.
Approving the 25-year review of the 45-year franchise agreement between the City of Turlock and Turlock Scavenger Company for the provision of refuse, garden refuse, and recyclable material collection, alley tree trimming, and street sweeping pursuant to the terms and conditions of the franchise agreement.
We're in agreement. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Dehart?
Yes.
Councilmember Nascimento?
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soiseth?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Thank you so much, Director Cook. Moving on to item 8B, a request to provide direction to staff on how to proceed with Vice Mayor Bublak's request, which was supported by Mayor Soiseth, to discuss an annual allocation of a minimum amount of $100,000 for roadway improvements. Director Pitcock.
Good evening again, Honorable Mayor, members of council. The item before you is, as you stated, is a discussion of Vice Mayor Bublak's request to consider allocation of funds in an annual allotment of $100,000 or more from the general fund for road maintenance efforts. I must confess that in 2014-15 we had similar items for $50,000, and due to staffing issues as well as priorities, we did not get those funds expended. If the council so choose to support it, we'd love to continue that effort and bring back a project to you in the future. One of the questions we hear are that we are currently how are we currently funding street maintenance? The primary funding for street maintenance over the last 5 years has been assessment districts. It's been excise and sales tax generated from fuel purchases, and this is your LTF and your gas tax funds. We also have what's called Federal Surface Transportation Program, or STP funds, and these are federal grant dollars. As you're aware, the assessment districts are actually funded from a special property tax, and they can be only used in assessment district areas. Your state and fuel excise and sales tax are fully encumbered and are for operational maintenance costs supporting street lighting, traffic signal maintenance, pothole repair, roadway striping, median maintenance, as well as matching funds for federal reimbursement projects. These funds are diminishing as the cost of fuel has dropped and also as fuel efficiency of vehicles has increased. The Surface Transportation Program funds are fully encumbered on a project-by-project basis and can only be used for roadways classified as either an expressway, an arterial, or a collector. With the most recent call for projects, staff has applied for funding to rehabilitate West Avenue between Lambert Avenue and Highway 99. This work is currently estimated to be funded in fiscal years 18-19 and 19-20. So one of the questions is how far would $100,000 go? If we had $100,000, you'd be looking at about 4,000 linear feet of a slurry seal project, 1,500 linear feet of a microsurfacing, 1,000 linear feet for asphalt rubber cape seals, 500 feet of overlay, and about 250 feet of reconstruction. These are general numbers that were based off of a size of the width of a collector street. If it's a local street, then you get more linear footage. If it's an arterial, which is wider, you'd get less. So one last item you should consider is city-funded maintenance in place. Should the half-cent sales tax in November be approved, you cannot supplant these dollars should that be approved in November. So keep that in mind as you discuss this. We want to make sure that you are fully aware of that aspect as well. So at this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions or comments for Director Pitcock at this time? Yes, Councilman Nasamao.
Director Pickett, could you elaborate on the commitment if we allocate this funding and the road tax passes that we would have to hold that? So just, is there language in the countywide road measure that would hold us to that?
That's my understanding. There's language that states that if whatever you're putting towards road maintenance can't be supplanted by the half-cent sales tax, you must continue that forward.
And as a member of Standing Cog, I asked just one point of clarification. It's the actual amount is averaged over 3 years leading up to that. So it'd take the amount. So say the $100,000 goes through, you divide that by 3, and that's basically to allow and keep the same level of funding that's currently happening within cities to continue moving forward. But that's something that we can get clarification with moving forward. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Councilman Jacob.
So the 100,000 averaged over 3 years. What other expenditures are we currently making? I understand that we didn't do the 50,000, but would our road repair crew and all that be included into that?
As far as the maintenance effort associated with the gas tax that our maintenance crews use, assessment districts and so forth.
Right.
I believe they probably would all be considered in road maintenance efforts, so it'd probably have to be included, but we'd have to clarify that.
Okay, and that's only things that are funded directly by the city and not, say, grants that we get for specific items?
That's correct.
Okay. Any other question? Yes, Councilman DeHart.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Pitcock, just one last question from me with respect to the gas tax funds. You had mentioned that they were fully encumbered. Could you please explain what that means? I guess what I'm trying to get a better feel for is whether or not we have any latitude in terms of emphasis in one area or one specific project, or if it must be evenly applied, and oh, by the way, we're being told how to spend those dollars. Can you just explain that for me?
When we currently say currently it's fully encumbered, it basically means that those dollars which are coming to us are being expended annually for road maintenance repair, as well as maintenance associated with the streetlights, traffic signals, et cetera. So what we're saying is we haven't had any excess funds in the last 5 years. They've been fully, we're utilizing those funds on a consistent basis.
Okay, and I guess the real intent of my question, thanks for the explanation, but I think the real intent of the question is what kind of flexibility do we have with respect to, for a period of time, or for a specific hotspot, or for a specific street in a neighborhood, or for a specific other kind of issue like that? Do we have to concentrate for a period of time or a certain dollar value that would be untypical from the historic application of those funds?
Your excise tax and your LTF taxes can be utilized as you see fit as the council. You could put it towards hotspots, you could put it towards special projects, but we have to make sure that we maintain our current staffing levels, our current materials that we have to purchase, and to keep our staff fully prepared to make those maintenance efforts that's necessary. But you have the ability to modify, to dictate, and move those dollars as you see fit.
I really appreciate that, and I think it's a key point, because I think that there is some concern that, oh, by the way, we received these funds and they're already spent upon receipt, because this program, that program, some other program is in place and it's going to be continued ad nauseum, whatever. But the reality is, if we have any kind of flexibility to be able to say, okay, with this year's funds, and I believe they come in annually, correct?
They come in actually on a monthly basis.
On a monthly basis, okay, good. So we do have a little bit more flexibility to even perhaps examine what some of those hot spots or potentially higher priority projects might be, to say, take a look at Headstrom. You've got a quarter mile Well, $100,000, from what I understand, according to this chart, we could do some damage on Headstrom to fixing it up. And so that's what I'm trying to get a feel for. Thank you very much for the info.
That's correct, but I just want to make one thing ultimately clear, very, very clear, is right now with staffing costs, materials costs, and so forth, we don't have a lot of excess funds to direct that way. If you, to do that, we would have to figure out what services are we no longer going to, what are we going to do as a city? So you could possibly lose positions and those types of things, because those dollars are actually filling positions.
So, okay, just for clarification, I'm a little slow tonight, sorry.
No problem.
So what, the LTF funds, the gas tax funds actually pay somebody's salary? Is that what you're telling me?
The excise tax goes directly into street maintenance, and they cover the salaries and benefits of street maintenance workers, as well as the materials and so forth that's necessary for them to do their daily jobs. The LTF funds typically go into what's called Fund 117, and those funds are now being used to power the street lights, to power the traffic signals, to do maintenance on the traffic signals. It also covers some salary costs and engineering for special studies that we do for traffic safety. And then there's other various, we pay a little bit to Caltrans and to do some basic maintenance as well. So those dollars, while we say they're currently encumbered, is because we have specific items that we're currently paying for, but they don't necessarily have to go that. You could say use general fund dollars to do these, to pay for this, and to use those dollars somewhere else. But, or you can say we're no longer going to provide those services.
And I guess if we could approach it from the standpoint of not reducing staff, but identifying areas of flexibility, that'd be something I'd be kind of interested in knowing.
I can work with the director that's over streets. We can see if we can figure something out.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. So the one council member that brought this forward hasn't spoken. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Absolutely. Not questions of you, Mr. Pickup, but just essentially explaining to everyone that my goal in asking for this is that we show the commitment of this city towards our roads, no matter what happens with the Measure L tax. And while I am disappointed that we didn't get anything taken care of as we'd hoped to, I'm confident that we can move forward with this, put a minimum of $100,000 into a roadway that is desired, needs it more than others. And it's kind of premature for us to be discussing roads until we can allocate and use the $100,000 that we've spoken of. And so to demonstrate that, I'm talking about $2.5 million with 25 years to tie into that. So we're saying as a council for the future, that no matter what, pass or fail, that we are committed to the roads. $100,000 is a start, and they can always bring back more and figure out what to do if something else doesn't work for us. So having said that, what I'd like to see is a scope of work created to identify a critical local road in need of funding. I would like to see potential funding options, ideally a minimum of $100,000 annually. And I'd like the draft RFP for council consideration by August 9th meeting. Is that doable, Mr. City Manager?
Yes.
I guess my question is for City Attorney. So we can bring this forward as a council. I'll open it for public comment, but can we just have a direction, or do we need to vote on something similar to that? It's an agenda item, correct? Bring it forward to direct staff to bring this forward, correct?
Yeah, and I would think, make sure that we have the consensus of the
Correct.
council in moving that forward. So yes, I think a vote on the motion after obviously you've taken public
Perfect.
participation would be appropriate, Mayor.
All right, thank you, yeah. All right, okay. This is your item, so that's kind of what you're putting out there. I appreciate that. I'll open it for public comment on this item. Anyone from the public like to comment on this? Again, we're not allocating funds tonight. We're having staff move forward and putting something together so we can consider that for the August 9th meeting. Yes, Ms. Truewaller, come forward.
Yes, Milt Treeweiler. First, I want to just kind of tell you that these are my personal views as a citizen of Turlock. They represent no one else's views, and, you know, these are just my ideas. I want to put my ideas out there. looking at the $100,000 amount, it doesn't appear as though it creates an awful lot of difference. I mean, doesn't really accomplish a lot, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The 1/5, well, the microsurfacing, the 1/5 mile, that equals 3.5 football fields of street in length. The asphalt rubber cap, which was 1/10 of a mile, that represents just 2 football fields in length. So that's not a great deal of distance as far as taking care of roads here in Turlock. I had the idea, well, what if we took this $100,000, allocated it to the pothole repair fund, which is something we really have an issue with, especially during the rainy season. And of course, the potholes actually create more of a problem to our vehicles than bumpy roads. And we have a lot of bumpy roads, we have a lot of potholes in the city of Turlock, as everyone knows. And the pothole repair, I understand, actually comes out of the gas tax. So if we could just direct this into that fund and spend the $100,000 a year on pothole repair. And that was just a suggestion I have to the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trewiler. And I agree with your sentiments. And I just want a point of clarification for the clerk, especially. You used the word minimum, right, for 100,000. So that's something for guidance. And also you said local projects. So that can include crack seals, potholes, something, stretch of road. So you guys, as far as staff, are going to be coming with some alternatives or something for us to look at, correct?
Yes. We can. I'm thinking with the $100,000, we could come to you with a crack sealing project. But I'm thinking that $100,000, we're getting to that point where we might be able to do a slurry seal project and get into maybe a residential community or a residential area that does not have an assessment district, and maybe we can make an impact to an area of town.
Perfect, perfect. So, Mr. Trewiler, August 9th, I expect you here. All right. Perfect. Yes, Ms. Jackson, please come forward.
Mr. Pickock, how much do we have? It was like 70 or 80 million of current road repair, correct? Where are we at now? 90? 90? Okay, so I sat on Standcock for 4 years. I think this is putting the cart before the horse. No disrespect, Ms. Bublak, but if we have a countywide measure that's going to pay for existing fixes, was it 70%? I went to that meeting, I should remember that, but I don't. But I think you need to wait and see if it passes. I mean, we don't have the money from the state. It's the bottom line. People do not understand that the state has taken our money for the last 25 to 30 years, and nobody gets it. And so until the community understands that if you're not a self-help county, we don't get state funding, we don't get federal funding. That's what you need to be talking about. $100,000 is a drop in the $90 million bucket, in my opinion. Pure and simple. So you need to go for your biggest bang for your buck. We have all kinds of projects that need to be funded. $9 million for Fulkerth, $40 million for West Main, just for the on and off ramps. These are things I worked on since 2008. So I think you need to wait and see if this passes and then try to address the $90 million. I mean, that's just how I look at it. I hope that on average it takes 3 times to pass a self-help tax. Go drive in San Joaquin County. Thank you.
Absolutely, and I think that, any other comments, questions from the audience? All right, I'll close public participation, and, bring it back. Yes, Councilman Nascimento.
Obviously roads are a problem in Turlock. We've identified that for some time now. Funding those repairs is the difficult part. And I think as a council, if we're going to be honest and say that roads are a priority, then they need to be included in the budget. And we had several budget workshops. We've had a budget that was adopted, made several amendments. And I don't think this is saying that roads is a priority because we're adding it on to the end. We're using reserves. This $100,000 would come out of reserves, Mr. City Manager, I'm assuming?
That would be one option.
And so it's hard for me to say that we're making it a priority when we're basically saying, okay, we've expended all of our resources and now we're going to tap into our savings to do this. Because that to me says that it's an afterthought. It's not making it a priority. So if we want to make roads a priority in our budget, I think we have to identify somewhere in our current budget that we're willing to take these funds from. I don't think it makes sense to go into reserves to fund this. So I think if we're going to be serious about making this a priority, let's identify savings in our current budget and utilize those funds. I really don't agree with using reserves for this purpose because we have needs in our police department and we have needs in our fire department was brought to us this evening. And for us to take funds that would otherwise be available to those departments, I don't think is wise of this council. I think we have to identify those priorities and they're going to compete. We're always going to have competing priorities, but we need to identify those and balance them. And I think doing it in this sort of one-off manner isn't the right approach.
I'd really quickly just like to address, I don't think anyone was saying it had to be reserves as an option, and hopefully we'll have that discussion. There's other options for funding. And then again, showing the investment. We had these discussions. We talked about the $50,000 per year investment. I think before I came on council, that was a discussion had by previous councils about putting skin in the game before a certain measure was pushed forward. I think it's symbolic, but it's also very substantive to try and put forward money towards roads when you're asking an additional sales tax revenue to come forward from the county. So I think there's multiple reasons to consider it. Again, we're talking about considering this for August 9th. Let's just reiterate that. So Councilman DeHart.
Thank you, Mayor. I think just a couple of comments and clarification. I had the opportunity actually to do exactly what Vice Mayor is doing this evening in 2014, to bring forward an idea of at least budgeting for scheduling the amount of $50,000. Now, I have to say, out of the one hand, while I felt that we needed to put some skin in the game, I also feel now today, knowing what I know today, that one thing not apparent then was that if a tax passes, current level, and of course we're going to get clarification on it, but if we have an item in our budget already approved, and the tax passes, that current expenditure in our budget is locked in for the next 25 years as well. So it's kind of like I'm a little bit confused over what that might look like. Do we need to be committed to our roads? Absolutely. There's absolutely no doubt. We've got refuse trucks, we got fire trucks, we got police vehicles, we got engineering vehicles, we got all these other vehicles that are out here using the same things our residents are, and they're frankly atrocious. But my concern is really, what happens if, hopefully, a road tax passes? $100,000 a year isn't going to do it in our county. And so we're not here to debate the road tax. I get that, but by the same token, $100,000, if it doesn't pass, is kind of like $50,000 if nothing passes. It ends up being a placeholder in our budget. There are areas in our town that frankly cannot afford to wait any longer. And I think that to study, to take a look at, certainly very prudent to do. One caveat. Let's keep in mind that if it doesn't pass in November, we've got a lot bigger problems than we've got now, folks. That's the reality of it. Whether you want to call it a tax, whether you want to call it a bring my quarter to Sunday school allowance, or whatever you want to call it, it has got to be considered that we need some skin in the game at some point in time. And how we do that, in order to obtain access to self-help funds, that's a biggie. That is huge. That's a game changer. Without that, none of the rest of it makes a difference, frankly, in my view. So I can certainly support an initiative that says, hey, let's examine, let's find out what potential sources there would be, and then let's sit down and discuss whether or not those options are appropriate. I'm already getting questions from some in the community about what are we doing about restoring our reserves. So there's a lot of competing demands here, and I think everybody gets that. I don't think anybody's questioning that, but there's a lot of work to do in many different areas of town, and certainly the road surface is one of them.
Absolutely. Yeah, questions or comments? Yes.
This question is for Mike. Will the 50K that was budgeted for 2015 but not expended, will that be factor into that 3-year average commitment over the next 25 years?
I would say since the money wasn't spent, it would not go into the calculation.
Yes, Councilman Nasma.
Yeah, it's, the mayor mentioned skin in the game, and I think it's an appropriate term. I think it's important for us to have skin in the game if we're going to be talking to our residents about the potential for a half-cent sales tax. I think the difference between 2014 and now is we ended the 2014 fiscal year with over $100,000 surplus, and now we're deficit spending. And so I think, for me, I think it's worth bringing back and evaluating, but it needs to come out of existing spending. I really don't feel comfortable doing this out of our reserves. I think we've tapped our reserves enough, and it's time for us to look at, if we're going to reprioritize funding, we need to reprioritize it, not just continue to dip into those reserves.
And again, reserves are not the only option. Yes, go for it.
All right, so my intentions was never to take from the reserves. It's to have us look at this, and Ms. Jackson, you're not wrong. 100,000 isn't that much. But as we understand, if we don't do something, then all we're going to be is sitting here saying that we talked about it and nothing happened. And so we have to do something. And it is a commitment. It is 100,000. I'd love to be $1 million, but I don't want to tie the hands of the future leaders for the next 25 years. And nothing precludes us from taking a direction as soon as the vote's over, as of November, and looking at seeing what we can start to put in, more money or less money, how it needs to be allocated. So I think this is a win-win to at least look at it, and for the citizens of Turlock at least to say that we're committed to the roadways.
All right, any other questions or comments or potential consideration for directing staff to bring something forward for consideration on August 9th? What's the pleasure of the council?
I mean, just in terms of direction, I think, as Councilman Bullock mentioned, if we can look at alternatives to reserves, I think that's important to bring back. And then just with clarification, as the mayor identified with the Stancog measure, is how that would affect that funding going forward, how much we'd be locked into for future years. I think that's going to inform the discussion.
Yes, City Manager.
I think it's very clear what staff is tasked with bringing back to you. Clearly, you want a scope of the project. Is it going to be crack seal? Is it going to be a slurry seal? What are we going to do? Some proposed roads that are in the greatest need. I'm not sure how you rank roads that are completely deteriorated, but we will try to do that. And we will also bring back at that time an RFP that allows enough flexibility for council to give action and for us to get that RFP out once you approve it, so that it has the ability to apply to many different focuses. And then finally, the funding mechanism, what I understand that we will do is we will bring back multiple options, not just a general fund reserve, but the reallocation of funding that's currently in the operational budget of the general fund, as well as looking at some of our other funds that we're using. As Councilmember DeHart pointed out, we will look at the expenditures from the gas tax money, and we will prioritize that for you and try to create a matrix and give you options for temporarily shifting some of those funds to other areas. But I don't think you're going to like those options while you're not filling potholes and you're resurfacing another area. The options aren't good, but I hear you loud and clear. We will bring you as many options as we can develop on the funding stream. If I could just get a confirmation that that's the direction for staff.
Yes. Actually,
we will make time.
Okay, good.
We the team that you see sitting at the table, they're all salaried employees. They'd be more than happy to work on the weekend on this project.
Yeah. And you have a lot of information already thanks to Stancog game preparation for the Measure L. You have a lot of roadway prioritization and needs and everything.
That is correct. We have a tremendous amount of data.
Correct.
The hardest part's going to be really trying to figure out alternate funding options to the general fund.
Perfect. So based off of what the city manager just said, clerk, can you please just call the roll and just say, affirm that you agree with the city manager's direction? That would be great. Yes, please.
So directing staff to develop a scope of work to identify roads with the greatest needs, developing a draft RFP for council consideration by the August 9th meeting, and identifying potential funding options.
All right. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Dehart?
Yes.
Councilmember Nascimento?
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak?
Wait for it to turn red. Sorry. Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soisek?
Yes, you have direction. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Moving on to matters too late for agenda, non-agenda items. Looking at the city manager and city attorney, they're both shaking their heads no. Council items for future consideration. Yes, Councilman Nascimento.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to bring to the council's attention, the city manager's attention, over the past month, I received several concerns and complaints from downtown businesses regarding the downtown farmers market and the impact, the negative impact it's been having on their sales on Saturdays. I've spoken to the city manager about this. I know he's gone through great efforts to reach out to those businesses and to sit down with them and listen to their complaints. And I think it would be prudent for this council to have staff sort of review the impact of that market that it's having on those downtown businesses and bring back something for council just as an update, sort of where that market is at and sort of outlook for the future.
City manager, are you engaged with the downtown businesses? I know I participated in one meeting, but are you continuing to be engaged with them?
We are. So approximately 3 weeks ago, the mayor facilitated a meeting between city staff and I would say 12 to 15 of the downtown business owners. And we have heard loud and clear from them that there are several concerns that they have specifically to the farmers market. They have done an analysis, and it's very clear to them that they are suffering a financial loss as a result of less foot traffic than they had experienced previously. This week, yesterday, we had a follow-up meeting to that, and we are scheduling a meeting with the Golden State Farmers Market, Mr. Cipineri, as well as a representative group of the downtown business owners to explore options to try to resolve that. But we would certainly be more than happy to bring back a staff update following that meeting.
I'd like you guys to, thank you. Move forward. Thank you.
And just a matter of clarification, I don't recall from our original discussions, but did we not establish a 90-day review as part of the contract? I don't recall.
I think that's something that city manager, after your meeting, if you can clarify and just bring us a staff update as to what you came from that meeting, that would be great. All right. Any other council items for future consideration? All right. Moving on to council comments. Any council comments? Moving left to right. Yes, Councilman Dehart.
Many times we make comments that people agree with, people don't agree with. Perhaps even worse, we don't make comments. And I'd just like to step up to the plate and say, hey, we made a presentation on some campaign finance reform last meeting. And as we moved towards closure of that particular item, I made a comment, but did not complete the comment. And I ended up over the past 2 weeks living with that reality. I think, as the pastor would testify, acts of omission are as serious as commission. But the reality is that when we ask former leaders in our city, as I did, how long ago they served, and then make a comment that says, well, we can no longer afford to kick this can down the road, the clear implication is that that they had kicked the can down the road. Such was not the case. The intended result of my comments, and I apologize to the mayor because it was our initiative. The rest of my comments should have been that we as a council today cannot afford to kick the can down the road. And so I've reached out to at least three individuals, had 2 live conversations. Extending my apology, I extend my apology to the community as well. Not for the result of our actions last meeting, as much as for the result of my inaction. I apologize.
All right, thank you. Any other council comments? I just have 2. One is that to the IT, the whole entire department, you guys did a great job. Our microphones are working really well. We've gone through some tampering and working with this new equipment, but I think everything is pretty much dialed in now, and you guys are doing a fantastic job. And then a quick happy birthday to our new city manager, Gary Hampton. We will omit the AH birthday. Happy birthday. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we got you out less than 2 hours. That's pretty good for this council. If no other comments, closed session. City Attorney, what do we have?
Thank you, Mayor. We'll adjourn to consider 12A on the agenda, Conference of Legal Counsel, Significant Exposure to Litigation pursuant to California Government Code 54956.9D2.
All right,
One
thank you.
case.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Do I have a second? We have a motion by Councilmember Nascimento, second by Councilmember DeHart. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.